Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's Modern Investing on Pod TV. My name is Sasha Starr, and today's guests we have Dr. Milan Samberg. Welcome to the show.
Delighted to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Always a pleasure. And Jim Eat from Eat Foundation. Welcome to the show, Jim.
Thank you for inviting me too. It's great to be here.
We are going through very challenging times, and in about 1 minute, or maybe it's already started, is going to be auction of 10 years old U.S. obligations. And it's very important for stock market, how well or how bad this auction will go. The situation otherwise is with tariffs is quite grim, to tell you the truth. It's China and U.S. are going to headlong, and there is no prisoners are being taken. And European Union is preparing its own actions. And what's scary situation is that there are new alliances, as I said last week, and it's happening. There is already a new alliance has been formed with absolutely free access to the markets between, believe it or not, Japan and South Korea and their arch enemy China. They now agreeing to have access with no duties and no tariffs to each other. And if there will be more such alliances built, U.S. has a risk of staying on the sidelines as world trade is concerned. And that's not a pretty picture, not at all. It's I'm surprised why Congress is not taking away the responsibilities for the tariffs from one man. One man can dictate what's happening with the trade all over the world, which is detrimental to U.S. interests. So if Congress cares about American people, they have to immediately take away the authority from convicted criminal, from a con man, from a businessman whose record is dismal, if not disastrous. His lifetime record with bankruptcies, with impeachments, with all kind of lawsuits and so on. How U.S. people, okay, so they made a mistake by selecting him because Biden was so weak and Kamala Harris are not good. I understand all that, but now they can see what's happening with Trump's presidency. It's much worse than anything what's been ever before in the history of the United States. Jim, what's your opinion on that?
Well, I second your opinion. For one, it's been a disaster, and part of it is the bullying characteristic. It's like your big fat guy in grade school that would take your lunch money. That's what Donald Trump is, and so he's trying to take the lunch money of these poorer countries. But what has happened, and it's very predictable that it would happen, is he's aligning other countries against the U.S. So the U.S. could have the strongest economy in the world, but why would you fight with the rest of the world's economy? Why not have free trade, no tariffs, and trade freely with and you would dominate. You would still be in your dominant position. So the tariffs are a mind-numbingly stupid way of proceeding, and it's isolating the United States against the rest of the world, forming alliances that you could not have predicted, such as Japan, South Korea, and China, and alliances that you could have predicted, like the European Union. And so China has levied a almost 100% tariff back against the United States. How is that going to help the American consumer? We're going to face increased prices, and inflation is going to bite us for the foreseeable future, because prices are only going to go up as a result of these tariffs, and the tariffs that are And the trade, even the NAFTA trade between Mexico and Canada. Now, we're putting tariffs on against Canada, and this is just crazy thinking, crazy making. But it's a subject. It's based on the attitude of a bully who thinks he can get his way by bullying people into doing what he wants. We'll
James, James,
never know.
how is the bully benefiting from these tariffs?
Well, he thinks that he can get these people to do what he wants them to do, which is change the way that they trade with the United States to lower whatever it is that he wants lowered, or to raise whatever he is that he wants risen. And so he wants to force them to do what he wants them to do. This is the bullying. And because he's threatening them with tariffs, he thinks he's going to get his way. We'll see. I doubt it. We'll see.
Milan, what's your perspective on U.S.-Canada trade relationship right now, and where and which way it will go?
It isn't good, and it just has to get better, and it's unlikely to get better until Trump is out of office. And he's going to make every effort possible to stay in office, even though the Constitution doesn't allow him any more than 8 years. And so things are not looking good in the short term. In the long term, investors can benefit. The first stock market was launched in Amsterdam a little over 400 years ago, and every decline, without exception, has returned back to normal and continued to grow. And that will happen again, although we don't know how long it'll take for the market to return and to continue to grow. Right now, it's enormously overpriced. But when the market collapsed in 1929, it took 25 years for it to get back to what it used to be before the collapse. So, meanwhile, people can benefit, investors can continue to write puts and calls on the market itself, on SPY, which is an exchange traded fund which tracks the S&P 500, which is the American economy. And so investors can continue to benefit and make money selling puts and calls. This morning, for example, I've been doing this all along for quite a number of years. This morning, for example, we made something like $800 per contract selling covered calls. And that was possible yesterday as well. And so every once in a while, investors get assigned and writing covered calls, and they wind up in cash. Then they can take their cash and sell cash secure puts and keep making money. That's possible under all market conditions. What I'm concerned about is the fact that the market is enormously overpriced and will have to collapse someday. That's why, for example, Apple has been named by Fortune magazine as the best run company out there. Apple has enough cash to buy Disney and Coca-Cola outright completely. Warren Buffett similarly has a lot of cash. They're waiting for the inevitable to occur because in a declining market, cash is king. And so they expect that to happen because, the PE ratio of the market today is 22. The average historically is something like 17. The market has to collapse, absolutely has to. And so these rises in the market are temporary because the market fluctuates. And on its way down, it will continue to fluctuate with occasional rises. But in the long run, we're going to be okay. And we can continue to make a decent living by selling puts and calls on SPY. So there you go.
Milan, we can make decent living without selling puts and calls and just sell everything and just enjoy life. And there are several ways of living comfortably. Uh, but you see, this situation, it's a phenomenal situation because unlike huge market declines, what on our memory is, forget about 1987, it's quite a while ago, soon 40 years.
2008.
But on the recent memory, of course, dot-com bubble, it's a real estate debacle in 2008, and COVID 2020.
Absolutely.
But you see, all these, they were macroeconomic events of we
Yeah.
had no control, and you just had to go through it all. And at that time, market was overpriced with the dot-com bubble and real estate debacle or so on. Even COVID, arguably, well, you can make a case that market was overpriced. I'm not so sure about that, but okay. But this time, when you're talking about the 22 ratio versus 17 historically, it's not overpriced, really. 22, it could have been 25 and 27 as well because of the commanding US economy versus other economies. So, the commanding currency, US dollar, and so on. So, there are some reasons to believe that 22, 25 is quite possible, and it was possible just a couple of weeks ago. So here is one man, by sheer fantasies on his own, made every possible model is not working. And maybe, Milan, maybe you're right. Just forget about all that, Trump. Okay, just keep selling puts and calls. Possibly it's a good approach. Um, the problem is not what's happening now. The problem is what's going to happen in the next few weeks, months, and I hope not years to come.
But we
Eh,
have to think long. We have to think long term. Carry on, carry on.
well, for us, long term is say maybe a few years. I'm not talking about dozens of years because I don't think anybody of us can possibly be realistic to think long term, like dozens of years. At least my opinion is I'm not gonna wait for dozens of years, which probably I don't have most likely. So I'm thinking about next few weeks, months, perhaps.
And we don't know what Trump is going to do next. That's one of the
Exactly.
things,
What?
and as Sacha pointed out, the previous tips were due to market forces that you could understand. You could teach people what happened and explain them. This is just the whims of a man who's unfit for office and acting peevishly. And what he's done to the market is completely unbearable. That people were putting up with this. And I don't think the historical analysis of 22 versus 17 is you're comparing a market to a manufacturing market. The modern market is not the same as the manufacturing market of the past. It's fundamentally changed. And what is
Interesting.
historically accurate is no longer applicable to today. So is
Yes.
22 too high, too low, just about right? I don't know. But I
Interesting.
know not to compare it to the 17 average. And it's just one of those things that right now we're betting on future income more than we have in the past. But those revenues the companies have been reporting record revenues. And each time they have high expectations, they've been reporting and exceeding them. So this is what spurred the growth of the last 4 years following COVID. COVID, of course, we had a breakdown of the global economic system. The distribution system was shattered. And so it affected the economy in a significant way. But it's also explainable. What Trump is doing is inexplicable, and we don't know what he's going to do next. So this puts the market into a phase of uncertainty. Markets hate uncertainty. So we want to buy low, and the market is corrected. It's already in bearish territory. But how low is
Yeah.
low? I don't know how far down it's going to go. So do I start buying now or do I wait?
Well,
It's
a couple of things are interesting. Yeah, a couple of things are interesting. One of them uh, is 100 years from now, if you ask people to name American presidents, who will they remember? They will remember George Washington, they will remember Abraham Lincoln, and they will remember Trump. Yeah. Now, interestingly, about a third of eligible voters voted for Trump, and about a third of eligible voters voted for Kamala Harris, and about a third did not vote. So, what does that tell us? Another thing, what does it tell us? an increasing number of Republicans are against Trump. If you take a look at the number of Republicans who are against Trump, the number is getting bigger and bigger, many more today than a week ago, than a month ago. And so if he becomes sidelined, it will come from within his party.
Well,
I
let's hope
agree.
so. I haven't seen his spine yet. But the idea, of him destroying the market, he's also doing it to education. He's also doing it to environmental protection. The destruction is massive. And anything that is good, or we could say the scary word progressive, we had made progress in so many areas, and he's trying to dial it back to the past. And by doing so, who knows how many people are going to suffer. And I'm not talking about people who are well off enough to have money in the market and suffer. That's a first world problem. But and I've lost 10% of my net worth. I'm not happy about that, but I'm surviving. I'm fine. But it's the people that are in need, like FEMA. FEMA is going to be destroyed, and so people that suffer from hurricanes or wildfires or what have you, the response is going to be less than it has been. And people that are without welfare, without health care, and
Yeah.
relying on welfare, those people are going to suffer too. So when did we lose our sense of compassion? When did we lose our humanity? That's when we voted Trump in, when we became a cynical country who is only out for ourselves. The rest of the
James,
world knows it now, and that's
did
the
we
way they're
vote him?
treating it, justly so.
Did we vote him in if he got a third of the vote and Kamala Harris about a third, and Kamala
That's
Harris got
yeah.
about a third, and a third did not vote?
We have an
And
electoral college that decides it, and he won the electoral college.
yeah,
And popular vote, he won this time as well.
Under 50%, but yes.
No, just for a record, I'd like to mention something very disturbing is that he is adamant to provide everything possible in his ammunition to reach so-called, I don't know if you heard about that, but I heard it many times and recently, more often than not, to create so-called Mar-a-Lago agreement. What that means? That means to curse all countries, to agree to his tariffs or forms of tariffs or negotiate tariffs or any tariffs. But that's not the most important thing for him. The most important thing, he wants everybody who will agree to new tariffs and new agreements. Why it calls Mar-a-Lago agreement is that everybody will get together at Mar-a-Lago at one point once the wars are over, and all governments would agree to replace all US $37 trillion worth of debt with a new 100 years obligations which will pay no interest for the next 100 years, convert all $37 trillion into this 100 obligations. So therefore, US practically will have no debts other than those paid in 100 years. And therefore, it will be gold age of America, and everybody will be happy, and America will be great again, wealthy again, and
Dancing in the streets.
yeah, absolutely. The question is this. I had actually an argument with Nick, who was trying to prove to me that there is a short-term pain versus long-term gain. So my argument was that short-term pain is there, it's real, it's 100% a fact. Now, the long term gain is very so much in the sky. There is no evidence that it will work itself out. There's no evidence that, that it will be achieved. So, in this case, you put majority of people, at least in the United States and probably in many other countries, through 100% pain with the iffy gain in the future. and that future may or may not materialize that way. So how you play that equilibrium as Nick describing? Jim, what's your opinion?
Well, the thing is like you're thinking that the outcome that you predict will happen is a certainty, and that's never the case. There's all sorts of uncertainty when you're talking about the future, but the inevitable or the reality of the current pain that we're going through as a country and will for the next couple of years, without doubt. Um, this type of thing is um, you know not in dispute. Uh, but the future, you can argue one way, you can argue another, and the people that believe that they can predict the future with a level of certainty that allows them to inflict pain in the short term on people, these are the people that should not be in charge. And when they are in charge, then they do things their way. They will not suffer. They will not experience the pain that the other people are experiencing. They will make sure that the future leaves them untouched. But the rest of us, what do they care about our feelings? What do they care about our suffering? They don't. So since they're immune to our suffering, they will act with impunity, and whatever future that they hold, they'll make sure that they benefit. For someone like Elon Musk, he's going to make sure that whatever future unfolds, he knows what the rules are, and he will be an insider on those rules and make a profit from them, one way or
Actually,
the other.
it's not so obvious, Jim. Right now, Musk um, is quite vocal against this tariffs policy of Trump. And there are some rumors that he is working on possible impeachment of Donald Trump.
Well, then
And
I will change my mind about Elon Musk, and I'll flip on a dime.
look, Jim, you understand that he lost well over $100 billion in the last few days, and his trade in China is getting annihilated. And
Ah,
what do you think will happen? This, Musk is in a position. How many senators? There are 100 senators. What if he will pay them $500 million each to vote for impeachment of Donald Trump? Do you think anybody says, no, 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 keep your $500 million. I don't need it?
no,
I
no.
don't
Yeah,
think
he's proven
so.
that America is the greatest country money can buy.
Absolutely. So if he went and he spent untold millions of dollars to elect Donald Trump, he can spend even more to unseat Donald Trump. Trust me on that. Especially, there are a lot of senators, a lot of Congress people who would like to unseat Trump right now. And all over the world, it will be the big, how he calls it, a liberation day. That would be a real liberation day to get rid of Donald Trump. And we'll see how it will. It's all now in the hands of China and European Union. Now, if they will come to Mar-a-Lago, get on their knees, ask for forgiveness, European Union will have to pay $350
Never.
billion for, he
His
likes
country's had pride as well. Yeah, they'll never bend the knee.
did you notice how much he likes the number $350 billion? That's what he wants from Ukraine to recognize all the previous help that
Yeah,
was
the mineral rights of fruit
for mineral. By the way,
that they need to rebuild their country, of course.
but you know what? In the mineral rights, there is nothing about rebuilding Ukraine. There is
No,
nothing about continuing help to Ukraine. There are no peace guarantee of any kind to Ukraine.
right.
There's nothing. Give me $350 billion. Same thing is telling European Union. Not only that you have to pay $350 billion right now, there will be no sanctions and possible
See, this is not
tariffs
how
removed.
Trump's mind works. He thinks transactionally, give me if I give you, and he doesn't think about helping either another person or another country. And in times of dire need, will America be there? In the past, America has been there. And now, under the Trump administration, no one trusts America to be there because he's a transactional person. What can I get from you? if I give you something.
Jim, you see, this is the biggest problem of all, that even if Trump would reverse now back these tariffs somewhat or completely, the damage has been already done.
I agree.
There is a boycott of Americans and American products all over the world.
And
New
why not?
lines are being
It's
formed.
not unexpected. It's natural. It's exactly what you would predict.
Yeah,
You're lining up the world against America. Why? You
so
know.
to fix this damage, it's only one. It's a removal of Trump. There is no
Well, if you
other.
remove Trump, then you got JD Vance. Is that good an advantage? Is that the step up in the right direction? I don't know.
Well, I'm not
You
so
got
sure.
Trump.
I think you start with removal of Trump.
I agree.
There is a midterm election is coming, and I don't think that Republicans will do very well. And this is a conflict between Congress people and Trump, because Trump still has 3.5 years before election, and especially that he is not eligible to be reelected, right? And these Congress people, I think a third of them are standing for election in a year and a half. And they don't want to lose their position because of Trump.
Right.
We lose $175,000 dollars salary,
All the
the
perks.
free parking at the Dallas airport in Washington. They will lose all that. They don't want to lose it. They don't want to pay for parking at the Dallas airport. And they want to keep their salaries coming in. So it's not even
They like having an aide. Yes.
it's not even their hatred for tariffs or Trump or whatever. It's just self-preservation. Like we're discussing here, the preservation of capital is very
Right.
important. And for them, preservation of their job is very important. So that's not that. You see, if you will figure out, let's say a formula. Okay, you stand for Trump. You love Trump. You love his policies, but you're taking a risk of losing your job. You don't like Trump anymore. You don't care about his tariffs and so on if you're gonna, as a result, lose your job. So you might as well say, I disagree with the tariffs. It's very bad for American people. I think $7 trillion more removed from valuations in the stock market. By the way, another question. What do we do now to protect our capital? Because
Right.
right now,
How
the
do you preserve
of
capital? Right.
capital is very important. The way I doing that is I still have some position left, but I've rearranged my portfolio, getting a lot into silver and gold assets. Because the way I see it, as a result of these calamities, US dollar will go down. US stock market, although there will be bounces here and there, I will use these bounces to sell even more and build up around silver and gold. Um, I'm putting silver a little bit higher than gold simply because, um, if the market will move up in precious metals, as I expect, silver in percentages may do even better than gold. May not, but if there will be a rout in silver and gold assets, I think silver will do probably just as well, maybe even better than gold. However, I don't care if both will move higher. It's okay by me. I still keep some shares of NVDY simply because of the dividend, although I'm selling options on that as a way to get rid of it. So I don't want to sell it because I still want to get dividends in a week and a half time. But I'm not so sure about that because what if market will continue to go down? So this NVDY also will keep going down. So my greediness to collect the premiums and selling covered calls, it may not be ideal. But again, being a
I
greedy
haven't looked at
person,
that in a while.
that's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
What about you, Jim? What are you trying to rearrange your portfolio?
Well, yeah, I noticed just now. Yeah, Nvidia and NVDY has gone down substantially. Doesn't that make the dividend like a higher percentage of the? So in any case, the dividend doesn't change. It is what it is. Yeah, the preservation of I think if there's a rare earth minerals and metals are interesting to me. The other thing is that I think, as we say, like Apple has been crushed, and Apple, as Milan points out, it's hugely invested. It still has a lot of cash, can do so. But Apple deals with China a lot, so these trade wars are killing companies that would otherwise be doing fantastically well. So, do I think Apple's going to go out of business? No. So most of the things that I invest in, I think the companies are well run and will survive. So I am right now taking the position of I'm just going to wait it out, and I have cash, and I'm going to invest it when I think something is stabilized. Right now, I don't know where the bottom is. I don't know how far down we're going to go. So I don't want to buy on the way down. I want to buy
Absolutely.
on the way up.
Absolutely.
Speaking of stable and everything like that, I love to hear my esteemed colleagues and particularly Sasha, since this shows thoughts on this. But apparently, Trump, and I've heard this, has claimed that there has been $2 billion saved in investments because of the tariffs and all along those lines. So he came out yesterday and said that there is a daily saving of $2 billion, and I'm going like, where? I know it's not in my
What
wallet and everything, but that is what he is claiming. So,
savings?
your take on that?
Economists universally agree that tariffs are bad,
Yeah.
and Trump doesn't listen to economists. But tariffs
No,
are bad.
I would like to not to defend Trump, but mention that tariffs, when they are being selective and when
Oh
they are
yes.
to certain use, there could be quite possible and positive use of tariffs here
Oh,
and
of
there.
course.
Even
To protect.
let's even with European Union, if he would negotiate just with European Union, you put tariffs say 20% against our goods, and we put 10% against your goods. Why don't we make it 10-10 or 0-0 or something like this? But what
Yeah.
he's going ballistic without any negotiations or warning or anything uh, against all countries, 180 countries all over the world. This
And
is
to answer Mark's question, I have no idea where that number comes from, but I know that Trump's, when his mouth is moving, when his lips are moving, information is coming out that there's no basis in reality.
Well, it's not just
And
his mouth; it's also his press secretary, because she is claiming that all of these 180 countries are blowing up their phone, if I can use that slang term and everything,
yeah,
to have negotiations. So she's claiming that all the countries are calling and wanting to have negotiations, which they
yeah.
are more than willing to have and everything. But that's what she's claiming, is that the phones are being
And
blown up.
Washington is not answering the phone.
How do you know that Trump is lying? His lips are moving.
Lips are moving. Well, the thing is some countries may, in fact, want to negotiate. I saw something where there were people that were the countries that were listed as resistant, and countries that were listed as going to kind of roll over and do what Trump says. And like, for example, I think Vietnam was one of the countries that was going to roll over, but the list of countries that were not, that were going to were the countries like Japan, China, South Korea, England, and the European Union. The list was far greater of those who were going to fight him. And so, maybe he's getting a lot of calls from Laos and Vietnam and Cambodia, but maybe not from anybody who's a real player in the world's economy right now.
We recommend against buying gold or silver or any individual stocks. We recommend buying the American economy in its entirety by investing in an exchange traded fund which tracks the S&P 500, which really represents the American economy. Inside that S&P 500, inside SPY happens to be the best exchange traded fund to track the S&P 500. Inside SPY also you have gold, and you have all those individual stocks that you like, because when you buy a stock, you're buying it for somebody who is selling it. We talked about it before. The stock goes up, the buyer is right, the seller is wrong. The stock drops, the buyer is wrong, the seller is right. You cannot both be right at the same time. Would you drive a car knowing that you got a 50% chance of an accident? So why not own the American economy as a whole, within which you have NVIDIA and all those individual stocks that you like?
I'll tell you why. Let's see if I decided that you're right. And I'm going to purchase S&P 500. My problem is that you just described that I will buy it from somebody else. There's no other way to buy S&P 500. So in this case, either I'm right or the seller who gave me this S&P 500 sold it to me.
Not quite, not quite. That's not quite right.
No. Okay. So
what happens is the seller is selling because he owns nothing else but SPY, and he needs to buy groceries and pay the rent.
Really? What if he has more SPY than you, me, and Jim all put together?
And also, I sold Tesla and Tesla went up. So, but I hit my target price. So I wanted the stock to go up to a certain level. And when it did, it triggered this is my discipline, triggered me to do a sell. Well, I was a winner. And the guy who bought it was a winner. So, it's not always 50-50.
Dylan, you have at your disposal a lot of good reasons to buy S&P 500. You do.
Yeah.
Ones that you just vocalize about it, that the both seller and the buyer, they both cannot be right. This is not the best reason to buy S&P 500. You have a lot of good reasons, so why don't you concentrate on good reasons? Instead, you're providing very iffy, the best reason.
The best reason to buy the SPY, the S&P 500, because it represents the American economy in its entirety, the strongest economy the world has ever seen. Now, the real issue, the real problem is the American debt. The American debt is something that will haunt them, and how are they going to get rid of that American debt? They will have to raise taxes or decrease benefits or both. There is no other way.
How it can affect the market, the fact is that in the last few weeks, and it accelerates, unfortunately, both Japan and China, which are the biggest holders of US debt, they are selling I thought it would be once a month. No, it's now twice a month. Every 2 weeks, they are loading. Last Japan sold $33 billion worth of US, and China just started to sell.
Yeah, see,
Who's going to
replace
China and the Japanese investors as the US debt is concerned? Who is going to do it?
Well, you think about presidents and who's going to be remembered: George Washington, Abe Lincoln, and Trump. Well, you remember Julius Caesar as the Roman emperor, but you also remember Nero because he fiddled while Rome burned, and Trump is doing the fiddling right now. And these countries start selling American debt. Who's going to buy it when we issue
I'm
it?
waiting results of this auction of 10 years old.
Because people have been buying it for a long time. The debt has been a problem for a long time. And when we issue more bonds, people buy them. And if that changes everything.
You know who is going to buy is, for example, even today auction? Federal Reserve.
There you go.
There is no one else. So Federal Reserve will have
and they'll print more money, which is inflation.
Absolutely. So then another problem is that Federal Reserve cannot either raise interest rates, it's disastrous, or even lower interest rates. This is also disastrous. There is no way out. I mean,
Trump has tied their hands as well. Yeah.
So in that scenario, fundamentally, I'm not fundamentalist and I don't trade on fundamentals, but from point of preservation of capital and try to find something reliable and that could provide some profits. That's why I came up with the gold and silver decision, simply because if US dollar will go down, and most likely it will, then gold and silver definitely will go higher up in
And you
price.
brought up why isn't the Congress taking over the tariffs? Because the Congress has responsibility for the purse, America's purse, and
Because everybody is scared of
because
Trump.
he's scared, right? So the same thing is happening in the Supreme Court right now.
Yeah,
So we have a balance of power between three separate instruments of the government:
we
uh,
should
the
have.
executive branch, the Congress, and the Supreme Court.
Yes.
Well, right now the Supreme Court is, Trump is talking about impeaching judges that have wronged him in his delirious mind, and these justices, the Supreme Court doesn't know what to do, and they seem to be leaning towards supporting executive power, and Congress is definitely in fear. They think they'll be primaried if they speak out against Trump, and they won't be able to win their primary, let alone the overall election. So there's a lot of fear going on, and there is the first real threat to the American system of democracy, the representative democracy that has served so well for 200 plus years.
Yeah.
It's definitely in danger. So we're talking about the U.S. dollar in danger, but the U.S. system of government is in danger as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We can just keep watching what's happening and hope for the best. We can try to rearrange the portfolio. By the way, another new purchase I've made, I forgot to tell you, is a company by the name Pfizer. It's
Oh
been
yeah.
beaten badly. It's paying 8% dividend.
Oh, there
So,
you go.
so I
Right.
thought how low Pfizer could keep going. Let me see what Pfizer is doing. Last time I saw it was somewhat higher. Yeah, it's going. Yeah, it was down, but it's now in plus territory a little bit. It's about $22 share, and if you take 1 year chart, it was as high as what is it? Just recently, a few months ago, it was 30 some $35 or so. It went down. It went down actually quite a bit in the last few days. I think there is a possibility of tariffs on or taxes, whatever you want to call it, on the pharmaceutical industry.
Yeah,
Pfizer is a big part of it. But as
sure is.
long as I've investigated, they have more than enough money to keep paying dividends for next, I don't know, probably dozens of years. So
Yeah.
as long as they will keep 8% dividends, and if they will go lower, it will be even more than 8%.
Right.
But
Pfizer, by the way, Pfizer is inside the S&P 500, which
Yes.
we,
no,
we,
I
we
agree.
recommend that
Totally.
people own the best stock. There'll be some bad stocks there as well, but the S&P 500 represents the strongest economy in history. So,
And if you are going to invest in individual stocks, stick with what you know. I branched out to pharmaceuticals at one time, and I got my hat handed to me. I don't know enough about pharmaceuticals to buy, and so I stay away from that. I stay in sectors that I understand, and I have an ability to look into the future and see which companies are sound. They look into their past, see which companies are sound, and look into what they predict in future revenues, and see if that makes sense to me. If it makes sense to me, then I invest in the company.
Jim, you know what's the danger is that the companies, especially in high tech area, they may, in fact, produce the expected revenue and profits. The problem is that in this
Expectations.
environment, the valuation of this revenue and profits could be much lower than
You're
our
right.
expectations. And in fact, we are going into earning season right now.
Yeah.
And I'm scared that there will be a positive earnings, and yet stocks may go lower
Yeah.
simply because the
The
environment
expectations are here. Yes.
expectation change, environment
Yeah.
change, and so on. This is why I'm, uh, if many times I was overly aggressive and I did very well in this market. Now I just change into a little bit more defensive area. I
Yeah.
just
I
purchased
understand.
Pfizer
We
yesterday.
did the same thing, Sasha.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
makes sense. Yeah.
Speaking of the environmental changes and everything, as I recall, and Nick can correct me if I'm wrong and everything, but I think part of the reason that people started investing in Pfizer was it was a leading researcher and actually have offices here in North Carolina in the COVID vaccines and all along those lines, and it was definitely probably doing leading research on the new measles vaccines that they're probably trying to create as well. So I was wondering how much is the market determined by things that are going on outside of the market, such as the pandemics and things along those lines. Because when I
COVID,
heard about
COVID affected the stock price.
Pfizer's research in the pandemic field, and people wanted to invest in that because they were trying to find a global cure.
If you wouldn't invest in cigarette companies and other sin companies, the pharmaceutical are in there now. You know, they changed our lives by the introduction. The first drug that was manufactured was aspirin by Bayer in the late 19th century, and they saved our lives, and they did so much that penicillin was developed in the late 20s, 30s, and that's what the pharmaceuticals did. But they have changed their behavior to become evil. If you take a look at a book written by Marcia Angel with 2 L's, Marcia Angel was the editor of the New England Journal of Medicine, one of the leading medical journals on the planet. She was involved there for a very long time, and she has written a book about pharmaceutical companies and the damage they do today. If you don't buy cigarette companies, you wouldn't be buying pharmaceutical companies today either.
Thank you, Milan.
I just buy good companies. And what do you think about Pfizer? It looks like now the dividend is 7.8. That's pretty decent. What do you think about that, Sasha?
Well, I bought it as a defensive play that the risk-reward ratio, in my opinion, is quite favorable because it's now trading at its lowest level in years. And it pays 8% dividend, which is secured by their cash at hands, their future cash flow, by everything. So even if it will go lower from this point on, which is possible, but as long as dividends is there to stay, so okay, it will go lower. It may pay.
When a company pays dividends, its value decreases by the amount of the dividend. There's no way of getting around that. And that's why companies like Berkshire Hathaway don't pay dividends at all. And so if you own Berkshire Hathaway, which I did for more than 20 years, you don't get dividends. If you need some money, you sell some of your shares. So the paying dividends.
I like dividends because I like cash coming in the door.
Yeah,
I have a different opinion on the dividend question.
pay me to own your stock.
When you are buying stock, you are on the top of the pyramid as the risk is concerned because there is a debt obligations, there are companies' debt, there are all kind of assets that can deteriorate in time or so on. So when you're on very top and if the company is doing well, okay, you'll do well. In a market like this, it may not even save you because with all these earnings and future profits or so on, it may still deteriorate in price. So 8% dividend in case of Pfizer, it provides you a cushion in case of downturn that you will 8%. It's actually in 13 years, you may get all your money back.
Yeah, they keep sending me checks. I like it when companies send me checks. I like it when anybody sends me checks.
Yeah, anytime you get a check, that's a great thing.
I like dividends because
It's a cashing thing.
I like my
TV and everything
companies
every
because
once in a
my
while.
companies send me checks.
So
So
Hey,
we
Nick, I got to ask you though. I don't mean to make it a sore subject, but worse. But you talked about buying Ford, and you can't be happy with the tariffs and what's happened.
I dumped it. I got out a lot of my stocks. But Ford was a temporary play. I made like 20%. Usually, if I make 20% weeks ago, it's got to be around. So I dumped a lot of my stocks because I made a lot of money during the Trump bump. But I did make a mistake. I did reinvest in Micron because I go, gosh,
Yeah,
Micron,
you talked about
I
that.
really wanted to buy it at 64. You know what? So I bought it at 103. Now I can buy it at 64. So it's going, it has never traded that low. And I'm just going like, okay. So I took a bloodbath here, but I made a lot of money on the other side.
Hey, Sasha, I got a great idea for an investment. And no, I'm not the investment expert.
I like
Y'all, the four of you are investment experts and everything. But I'm thinking that with everybody having massive headaches and all along those lines with the Trump administration and everything like that. And I'm saying partially because one of the products came from North Carolina, namely BC powder and everything. But I'm thinking that people need to invest in aspirin, because if they invest in aspirin, they might get some good stock, and it could also help them in the headaches that people are getting. So what is our
Prayer and
thought?
meditation.
I think there is a
A
German
number of these
company and they
companies
got
that
big
are
shares.
aspirin, those could be good stocks to invest
Prayer
in
and
when people have
meditation.
headaches. What do you think, Jim?
I think prayer and meditation is the answer for me. I don't think, just trying to ride this out, man. This is my expectation now is I'm not changing. I'm not trying to predict the future, because I don't know what this individual who currently thinks he's the dictator in charge, and whatever his next whim will be, I have no idea. I can't predict it. I have no idea. I'm uncertain. Therefore, I'm taking a wait and see mode right now. I'm not investing. I'm not buying. I'm not selling. I'm waiting. And once the world seems to make sense to me again, then I will start acting in the stock market again.
I think that what's happening in the next few weeks, there will be a rebound, and quite strong. Even in the stocks like Nvidia, other high tech stocks, there will be a strong rebound. And you can make enormous profits on the rebounds, but it's a short term. It's almost like sometimes 2 3 days, sometimes even shorter than that. So you have to be very agile if you want to really make some profits. You have to get in when there is a scare, when everything is going down. You may buy, but not in a large quantities, just a little bit here, just a nimble. And when there is an upturn in the market, sell, because the direction long term, in my opinion, down, down, down. I really
Yeah,
don't see a
that's
favorable scenario for several reasons. Milan, you're right that market is overvalued. I don't think that it's a lot overvaluation, but it's there. I agree with that. So the market could go down even without these tariffs. Now, but when it's going
of
down,
course.
it's exacerbated by these tariffs, so it's going violently down. And the most troubling sign of me, it was last Thursday and Friday, when there are no bids. So it was free fall. So you could sell stock by appointment only. You couldn't sell any stock because there was a bid for 200 shares, and next bid would be $1 lower for another 100 shares, and so on. So the bids are disappearing. So if that could happen last Friday, Thursday and Friday, why it cannot happen next week, for example? What's happened if China and European Union will not budge to Trump's whim and will put very strong opposition? What's going to happen with the market, do you think? So it can go down another 10% in 2 days? Yes, it is possible. So you might as well keep your powder dry, wait for the rebound, and make a little bit of money on rebound and sell. Don't hold anything long term. It's
We
impossible.
recommend the people who own SPY or the American economy as a whole and have a 50-50 asset allocation, which is very important. We recommend that to maintain your 50-50 asset allocation. The market drops, you wind up having more cash than the market, you buy bargains. The market rises, you wind up having
Let me stop.
you sell and take profits. So you're always taking
Milan,
profits. Yeah,
Milan, I
yeah.
quote you. As market is going down, you have more cash. How is that possible?
The allocation, he means, not
Yeah,
not
yeah.
the
Great.
total amount
So
of
you
cash.
have 50-50 allocation, S&P went down 10%. How you generate more cash in that scenario? How? What's
The
the
S&P drop, the S&P drops, so your securities are dropping. You wind up with a higher percentage of cash, which means you're no longer 50-50. To reestablish your 50-50, you have to buy bargains. And when it goes up, the opposite happens. You have to sell at a profit. You're constantly taking profits and constantly buying bargains.
My
There's
my
no other.
only my only take on that, that's counter to what you're saying, is that I don't know where the bottom is right now. So I'm not going to buy right now because I think it could go down further. I have no clue that I'm buying a bargain. I might be buying something that goes down, which is not a bargain.
But
So I have to wait until it starts to come back up.
Well, you
Yeah,
know
before-
something, James. Empires have a 100% failure rate. There's no exception to that. The failure of the American empire is nowhere near in sight yet.
I'm
So
not so
that-
sure today about it.
Yeah,
I'm not so
I
sure
think
about
we've elected Nero, and he's fiddling right now. It could very well be that the empire is burning.
I'm
Why-
going to go all in with Pfizer. I'm all in with Pfizer. I'm just through every dime I have into Pfizer. Let's see what happens.
Okay, there it goes. All in. Well, watch it closely.
All in with Pfizer.
There is a stock market and there is a Pfizer. Okay, you
I'm
choose.
all in with Pfizer.
and the people who want to ensure that they maintain their parking spots. You know, I ride a bicycle. I have no parking problems.
And your Tesla, you have to keep your Tesla charged.
Yeah, it's better to drive these days bicycles than Tesla because you're not going
Electric
to
bikes are very popular where I live right now. I see them all the time now. So
Tesla.
electric bicycles.
Oh, electric bicycles. Yeah,
They're
very good.
the rage now around here where I live.
Well, you own a Tesla, James. Are you concerned about it being vandalized? We own a Tesla. We're concerned somebody's going to start putting paint on it, and so.
Yeah, you know, the only thing is if Musk helps impeach Trump, then I think we're safe. But then we have JD Vance, so I don't know.
So you have a little banner sticker on your Tesla that say "I hate Trump," and that keeps you safe. Is that how you do it?
Yeah, well, we're trying to, help Musk get rid of Trump.
Well, so right now the
Well, those two were never going to get along for long, so there has to be something.
well, there were bets for how long Musk is going to be around, so the bets now are off. Nobody's going to bet anyway.
Well, his appointments have been astoundingly bad. You know, Peter Navarro is one of our trade advisors now. Peter Navarro, a convicted felon. Not that
Isn't he a brilliant PhD from Harvard University?
the guy is the Peter Navarro that I'm talking about is a convicted felon. And,
But doesn't he have a PhD from Harvard?
he was the guy, the architect of the Green Bay sweep. Remember? So
I'll look at him.
Actually, I read a story
he was,
about
whatever his past was, whatever his academic achievements were, the man was nuts.
No, you know what, Jim? I just read a very interesting article about Peter Navarro. He was in the time prior first cadence of Donald Trump. He was an academician. He was sort of a guy who was always a proponent of tariffs and so on. And Trump wanted to find somebody in academia who would agree with him on the tariffs. So he asked his people, okay, look around, find me somebody about this tariffs. And they approach Peter Navarro and explain what they're looking. And at that point, he became very vocal about tariffs like he never done before, because that was his chance to get anywhere, because he was nothing. He was
I
teaching.
might be misremembering who the Peter Navarro is that I'm thinking of, but he was the guy that was behind what they called the Green Bay sweep. How Mike Pence could have stopped the election, and he was in the belief that they could get new voters, new electors into. It was, to me, the scheme was crazy and a real threat to democracy. And yet now they know what they did wrong, so now they can do it better this time.
Well, speaking of crazy schemes, apparently one crazy scheme has been denied and all along those lines, but I'm still not like you, James. I'm not convinced that it's not going to happen, but there was a rumor that there was going to be a $1 million military parade to celebrate Trump's 79th birthday. But now they're saying that is not true, and I hope that it isn't true, because that would be a waste of the government and a waste of the people's money as well. But there was this rumor going around, and he is now denying that rumor. But, he is an emperor, so he might still try to do that parade to celebrate his 79th birthday.
80's too old, but 79's fine.
Well, if he will have a nerves to appear on that parade, if that parade will ever happen, he should be in a special box. Like, remember the Roman Pope, I think Vitellius II, he was appearing after there was a attempt on his life. He was traveling always in the special.
Bookmobile.
Yeah, yeah, and Trump should do the same because who knows? Next shooter could be luckier than the others too. So he should definitely take.
Well, certainly none of us are advocating for assassination.
No,
We are.
absolutely not. No, no,
Yeah.
no. Long life to Donald Trump.
The Roman Empire had about 100 leaders, Caesars, half of whom were assassinated. And the same would be true today, except they have better protection.
Yeah.
Today's political elites have better protection, but they're just as
Absolutely.
subject to assassination as the Roman emperors were.
Well, you think about the 60s. We had sorrowful experience with assassinations, and we definitely upped the protection that are afforded to our leaders.
Matter of fact, one of those assassinations, I went to an event that honored it because it took place on the 4th. That was the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr., which was on April 4th of that particular year in the 1960s and everything like that. So
horrible. Yeah. And John and Robert Kennedys. And yeah, it's not very happy saying, but hopefully markets will turn around at some point. They definitely will. Milan is right. All American economy will save us, S&P 500 for long life, and Donald Trump as well, and hopefully we'll do better than.
Hopefully, we didn't elect Nero.
Yeah. Yeah. By the way,
thank you, Pasha. Great talking with you.
When I will be in Riga this next few weeks, I already have tickets to Russian dramatic theater where I'm going to see a play Caligula.
There you go.
Good place to go see.
Everything leads to Rome.
Everything leads to Rome, no doubt. Hey, James and Milan, and even you, Sasha, I did hear that Al Green, not the blues singer, but the one that's a congressman, did say that he was going to bring up some articles of impeachment against Trump, and he is a Democratic leader and everything. He even said, "I'm coming after you." So that was his exact quote, was that he's coming after him and everything. So we'll see if he's that bold, but he did say that he was coming after him.
The Justice Department just got a memo. Go after this guy.
Okay, we'll see how things will go in the next few days. In the meantime, thank you so much for today's show. And I will see you next week, same place, same time. Bye-bye, everybody.